How do muscles grow? And what does it take to grow your muscle mass? These are the questions that we're going to answer in this video and also in the ones coming in the following weeks. Because this video marks the beginning of a small video series that I call 3-Minute Thursday. And basically there will be one new video every Thursday and I will explain the most important training variables and concepts such as progressive overload, rest between sets, training intensity, etc. in just 3 minutes. But before we actually start into the details on how to build muscle mass and how to optimize your training, etc., I thought it might be interesting to also have a look at how your muscles actually grow. And this is exactly the topic of today's video, how your muscles grow, explained in 3 minutes. Let's go. Whenever people are talking about building muscle mass, you hear the term muscle hypertrophy quite often. And this term, hypertrophy, actually already tells us how muscles grow. Because hypertrophy means that your existing cells, and in our case existing muscle fibers, grow in size. Meaning that you don't grow more muscle fibers, but rather the ones that you already have are getting bigger. So how do these existing muscle fibers get bigger then? Well, there are actually two mechanisms that both kind of play into each other. The first mechanism involves satellite cells, and these cells are sort of a muscle stem cell. When they get an appropriate stimulus, these satellite cells will start to multiply, and some of these cells will then fuse with existing muscle fibers. And what that does is add more volume to the muscle fibers because two cells fuse to become one, but it also adds an additional nucleus to the muscle fiber. The nucleus of any cell contains your DNA, which is essentially the blueprint for making proteins. Therefore, the more nuclei a muscle fiber has, the more proteins it can potentially produce. And this is actually the second mechanism of muscle hypertrophy, called muscle protein synthesis. Meaning that when your muscles get the correct stimulus, your muscle fibers will start producing more muscle proteins. And since these proteins all take up space, more muscle proteins means larger muscle fibers, which means bigger muscles overall. Then what are these stimuli that trigger both satellite cell fusion and muscle protein synthesis? In the current literature, there are 3 mechanisms being discussed right now: mechanical tension, metabolic stress, and muscle damage. And these 3 mechanisms are all pretty self-explanatory. Muscle damage means that there is literal damage to your muscle fibers. However, if and how much muscle damage contributes to muscle hypertrophy is not quite clear yet, with some studies even suggesting that muscle damage does not contribute to muscle growth at all. So, because we can't tell yet, this is probably the least important factor when it comes to muscle growth. Slightly more important is metabolic stress, which means that there is a buildup of metabolic byproducts, such as lactic acid, within your muscle tissue. However, by far the most important factor for muscle growth is mechanical tension. Basically, that means that your muscles are stretched under load, and that will activate satellite cells and also increase muscle protein synthesis. And these factors are heavily influenced by certain training variables like progressive overload, rep ranges, training intensity, or rest between sets. But my time is almost up, which is why we'll talk about all these training variables and their influence on muscle growth in the next couple 3-Minute Thursday videos. So stay tuned for that. Whew. That was actually tougher than I thought. I didn't anticipate it being so hard explaining something in just 3 minutes. But I managed and I'm very happy about this. Otherwise I would have fucked up my first video in this series. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did and learned something new from this video. And if you did, you know what's coming next. Please leave me a like on this video. Also, if you like this new format, then please subscribe to my channel so you see all of the future 3-Minute Thursday videos. See you in the next one. Bye!